Michelle, how you going?
Hi, well thanks Michael, thanks for seeing me.
Nice to see you again. How's everything going? Sorry about the summer attire. Yeah, killing me. How did you go finding a park? I hope you're
Yeah, all
park
good.
close.
It's so hot out there.
Insane,
It's
isn't it?
incredible. And we've got another 24 hours of it. I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. No summer. Oh, we
No
get no
summer,
summer, but
no. We were supposed to go
autumn.
camping at Hallsgate
Oh, really?
this weekend, and we've just said no, too hot.
blown that off. Yeah, probably a good decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how's everything going? You were leaning towards recommencing your CPA?
Yeah, so I've re-enrolled. I've just got some of the course content and the kind of structure. I've had one, like an introductory meeting with the uni, and yeah, so all systems go. I'm really happy that I made that decision.
Oh, great. I'm happy for you too. We've got about 10 minutes available to us now. I'd be, last time we met, we identified a few sort of goals. We talked a little bit about stress management, time management, maybe even a conversation to be had with hubby Jake. Are they still the sorts of things you'd like to talk about today, or is there something else you'd like to talk about? What would you like to do?
I think there's still things I'd like to discuss. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, that's great. Well, where do we start? Tell me. You spoke to your boss?
Yes, spoke to my boss. He was so supportive. He's so excited. He would like me to get it finished quickly because he knows that there's opportunities coming up for further work, potential promotions, which means more money and better quality clients. So he's really on board with that, which is great.
Excellent. Yeah, so good response there.
Yep.
Have you talked about it at home with Jake and the kids?
We've sort of had conversations, but not kind of formal, and probably, everyone knows I'm starting because I've had my first sort of intro lecture, but I guess I haven't done what I said I was going to do, which was speak to Jake in a more formal process about what I think it should look like. And probably I feel like I haven't done it because I'm quite anxious and nervous about that, because I feel like I'm asking him for a favour, and I feel like that means a favour, and I feel like that means.
Tell me about that.
I feel like I feel like it's sort of indicating that I'm a failure because I can't manage it all on my own.
Failure. That's a tough word.
Yeah, that's how it
failure.
feels.
You feel like a failure. Can you explain that to me?
Well, managing. Excuse me, I just got a water.
Sorry, I meant to say help yourself to water.
Managing the house, working full time, studying, kids drop off, pick up, after school care, before school care, extracurricular activities, all of those sort of things I guess I've always sort of managed, even though I've worked full time, and now you add a layer of study on it. It feels like I'll be saying to him, yeah, I'm a failure, I'm not coping with it.
Failure, not coping. Yeah. Feelings associated with that?
Just a level of anxiety, general stress, and I can't remember whether we talked about this last time, but one of my issues as to why I stopped studying was because I was basically, working full time, picking the kids up, then, doing the normal dinner, reader, homework, or whatever kids' activity, and then I'd be starting at 8:30 at night and studying the week prior to an exam or an assignment till about 4 a.m.
Wow.
Going to bed at 4, sleeping for 2 hours, and then starting it all again. So it wasn't sustainable. So the easiest thing for me to do was, I'm just going to defer it or quit, which is sort of hence why, that conversation we had last week, I suppose.
You're feeling overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess I can feel that that's going to be happening again if I don't put things in place.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind me making an observation, but the change in your demeanour, like you were so happy and upbeat talking about the CPA and you're back into it, you can tell that it's something good that's personally fulfilling for you. And then the trepidation that comes over, and you use words like anxiety, and yeah, I certainly have observed that it seems overwhelming that when you start talking about getting back into those dark days of that. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Fair sort of an observation.
Yeah.
I mean that you must be feeling torn from where I'm sitting.
Mhm.
You talk on the one hand about feeling that you're you talk about the joy of doing the CPA on the one hand, and yet you talk about this sense of being a failure on the other hand, and I feel like you're torn between those two competing objectives almost. Is that?
Yeah, I think that would be accurate. Yep.
Yeah, right. I hope you don't mind, but a bit of feedback from my perspective. It seems like you're trying to be all things to all people, and maybe that's something. Is that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I suppose that's that sort of. Yeah, just trying to do everything.
Yeah. I think sometimes in this role I need to actually just challenge someone's thinking. And I think it's appropriate maybe to just challenge your thinking around being a failure here as a parent.
Mhm.
Is there any sort of a world in which you can conceive of yourself the idea that you're not failing your children by being involved in each detail of their lives at the moment, but maybe in fact that you're succeeding for them as a parent, and that you're facilitating for them a degree of independence, if there's some of that, the readers and some of that stuff, the homework, if you step away from that a little bit and not manage it, maybe you're fostering some independence in them, or maybe you can appoint Jake to step in at certain times if we come up with a time management plan for you to step away from the domestic stuff. Is it possible that you can see that maybe that's helping everyone? So you're facilitating a better relationship between the kids and Jake. Maybe you're fostering independence if you step out of the picture a little bit.
I probably hadn't thought that way, but I think it's probably a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah. Is there something in that? Do you think that we can?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think that might be a better way of framing it with Jake as well.
Wonderful. I was just about to suggest maybe that's a. How do you feel about that? The notion of having a conversation with him around and framing it in those terms.
Yeah, I think I can't go back to old habits, so that it's important, and and framing it that way, I think he'll be more receptive.
Yeah. Okay.
Or understanding.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of the conversation, having a conversation with Jake, is that something you feel comfortable going away and doing next week, or would you like maybe next session to develop a bit of strategy around that? What would you like to achieve in that regard?
I think maybe next week's session would be good to have some strategies for dealing with that.
For having a conversation with Jake around some of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think our time's almost coming to an end now, but why don't we do that then? We'll make that as our goal for next time.
Yeah.
Just to recap on what we've covered today, I think if you just for a second, I think we've covered off that you feel really positive about the CPA, and that's a wonderful thing. But there's just this one thing that sort of remains, almost like a blockage for you, that remains with regards to the kids, and that you're feeling you're feeling torn, and that you've got this sense that you're failing them as a mother by doing the CPA. Does that sort of summarise where we were at the start of the session?
Yeah.
And that maybe in fact some of the challenge is to redefine your thinking around what success means as a mum in this circumstance.
Yep.
And maybe we develop some strategies for you to talk to Jake around that too, so that the whole family can adjust your behaviours around this new way of thinking about what success means as a parent and a mother.
Yep.
Does that roughly match with your understanding? We just want to check out that you're.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And next time we get together, we'll discuss some strategies for talking to Jake then.
Yep, that'd be great. I've already
Wonderful.
made an appointment for next week.
Fantastic, Ben. Look forward to seeing you then. Thanks very much for coming along,
Thanks.
Michelle.
Stay
Nice
cool.
to see you again. Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, that session, what went well? Oh, sorry, yeah, client name, I've got written down in my notes, Michelle. Session 2, today's date. Our goals, very much around time management and having a conversation with Jake. Outcomes that Michelle's feeling really positive about the CPA and that was a good decision, so that's the outcome, that's the topic we discussed and then the outcome. Another topic we discussed was that Michelle has concerns around time management and an outcome there possibly that Jake and the children all need to be able to cope a little bit better without Michelle being, you know, in the centre of their worlds and micromanaging effectively some of those details. We've also identified that Michelle has some barriers to speaking to Jake, and that a possible goal for the future session is a conversation with Jake, and maybe we need to address some of those barriers, as part of that. Michelle, and most notably that Michelle's feeling like a failure as a mum if she says to Jake, hey, can you do Tuesday nights and Sunday afternoons or something while I go away and study? So that we can alleviate that sense of being torn. So I think then the outcome there is that we're supporting Michelle to see that this is actually facilitating her. She's almost granting permission to Jake to step up a little bit more as a dad, and she can then grant permission to the kids to become a bit more independent. So hopefully we can reframe Michelle's thinking that she's in fact becoming a better mum. The interventions and strategies, basically we've just challenged Michelle's thinking around what it means to be a good mum and redefining it as also, creating children with a bit of independence and facilitating a better relationship between the kids and the dad, Jake. And then we identified that next session that we want to come up with a strategy for a conversation on how she sits down with Jake and talks about her needs with him. And she has expressed that in the past, that there's a lack of confidence there. The framework, the psychological framework, the psychological theory that I think is relevant to this case, or most relevant to this case, is probably Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In a nutshell, we all have, base type, survival type needs that need to be met, and those are around food, shelter, but also psychological belonging and safety and all those elements that need to be met before we can move up this hierarchy towards, the less survival orientated needs and the more esteem-based type needs around self-actualisation, self-fulfilment. And clearly Michelle's CPA falls into that latter category of being something a little bit more around self-actualisation. I believe Michelle's got a blockage, and I think I even used that word in our counselling session. She's got a blockage there around a perception, I think, that she hasn't met the base needs for her children if she hasn't done the readers, done the lunch boxes for tomorrow, got the socks out and everything, the uniform and everything organised for the next day. And it's almost like then, once all that's done, then she's got permission to go down the path of doing her self-actualisation. I think we need to overcome that blockage by making Michelle realise that in fact the base level's okay. It's okay. It's still being, her kids' base needs are still being met, even if she goes to lectures or goes to the library and does some study or does, takes some time off on, whatever day or night it is to do her study before the lunch boxes are taken care of. to me it's really telling that she was almost looking for things to do domestically that seemed more important than her CPA in the past life, and we need to change that thinking and help her understand about. So I think, yeah, a strategy for that would be that Michelle needs support in firstly understanding this notion of the hierarchy of needs, but also understanding that her kids' base needs, the survival ones, are in fact being met, and they're not being neglected by her going off and, you know, selfishly studying a CPA, which clearly it isn't selfish at all. Thanks for that. I neglected to talk about things I could have done better. I felt like I got a little bit leading. Yeah, I don't know that the one thing I wasn't quite happy with was, and I guess that's what challenging is. Like, I would love Michelle to have come up with it herself, that she wasn't in fact failing as a mother, but she was facilitating independence if she does this. I would love her to have come there, but she wasn't getting there, so I challenged it, and that's, I just struggle understanding a little bit. Like, I understand as a counsellor I want them to make their own discoveries, but she wasn't doing that, so I hope the challenge wasn't inappropriate in that regard. But I feel like maybe it was too leady. Thanks, cheers.